A lot of you may have heard of him. He's a very famous writer, and I'm fairly sure he was covered in a lot of your high school English classes. This is the book that we'll be reading from. It's the major works, including Paradise Lost, and it is the Oxford's World Classics. This is a picture of Milton, though if I remember correctly, he actually doesn't like this picture very much, or he didn't like this picture very much. I believe I learned that this circled area, I think he said he wrote, or I don't know, but I just remember that he didn't like it, and he mentioned it. He essentially wanted us to know, like, this isn't me, like, this isn't just how I look, like, I swear, it was the artist who made me look like this. So, I always thought that was kind of funny, because we get that a lot now, or we get a picture of yourself, and you don't quite like it, you don't quite think it represents how you actually look. Maybe more so in this case, especially with that long overcast shadowing. So John Milton was a really famous 17th century writer. He was known for his poems, but also his prose. He was very politically involved, and while that does show in some of his poems and some of his plays, we mainly see that on his prose work, like Areopagitica or Kings and Magistrates, the Tenure of Kings and Magistrates. Hopefully we can look at those some other time, because they are wonderful pieces of prose. The way that he makes his arguments is amazing. But in this video, we're going to focus on slightly different things. So to begin with, we'll read Sonnet 7, which he wrote, I believe, when he turned 23. It was his 23rd birthday, and it's about like youth and life and death. How soon hath time, the subtle thief of youth, stolen on his wing my 23 year. My hasting days fly on with full career, but my late spring no bud or blossom shruth. Perhaps my semblance might deceive the truth, that I to manhood am arrived so near, and inward ripeness doth much less appear, that some more timely happy spirits endueth, yet be it less, or more, or soon, or slow, it shall be still in strictest measure even, to that same lot, however mean or high, toward which time leads me in the will of heaven. All is, if I have grace to use it so, as ever in my great taskmaster's eye. I think this sonnet is fairly interesting. It talks about topics of time and the passing of our lives and the anxiety that is built with it. Milton was also fairly religious, He was, I believe, Christian or of that area of religion. And he always advocates for having faith in God and trusting God and such, like being obedient to God. And we'll see that more in Paradise Lost. So another sonnet that I wanted to talk about is Sonnet 16. And this is one of his most popular sonnets, I think. I've seen it in a couple English anthologies. So Milton, when he started to get older, he started losing his vision. So that became a very influencing theme for his writing, because he did continue writing despite the fact that he lost his vision progressively, but he did end up losing it. He continued writing, and I think that is very, very impressive and admirable. So Sonnet 16. When I consider how my light is spent, ere half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve therewith my Maker, and present my true account, lest he returning chide, doth God exact day labor, light denied. I fondly ask, but patience to prevent, that murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts, who best bear his mild yoke. They serve him best, his state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed, imposed o'er land and ocean without rest, they also serve, who only stand and wait. So this poem talks about the powerlessness and inability to serve God that Milton is feeling at this time because he is losing his eyesight. But he says that Goth doesn't really need man's work or gifts because God is kingly and he doesn't really need us to do anything for him. So that's why the last lines are, they also serve who only stand and wait. So in a way, he is also serving him in that sense. It's also interesting to note that Milton uses words like kingly. He's not afraid to compare God to a king, even in his sonnets or his poems, or shorter poems. So I'm going to be reading from the third book of Paradise Lost. And this one also deals with the loss of his eyesight. I just think it's interesting how we can see this theme pop up in a bunch of his different works. Because like I said, it was something that really impacted him. Hail, holy light, offspring of heaven, firstborn, or of the eternal, co-eternal beam, may I express thee unblamed, since God is light, and never but in unapproached light dwelt from eternity, dwelt then in thee, bright effluence of bright essence and create, or hearest thou rather pure ethereal stream, whose fountains who shall tell? Before the sun, before the heavens thou wert, and at the voice of God, as with a mantle didst invest, the rising world of waters dark and deep, one from the void and formless infinite. Thee I revisit now with bolder wings, escape the Stygian pool, though long detained in that obscure sojourn, while in my flight, through utter and through middle darkness borne, with other notes than to the Orphean lyre, I sung of chaos and eternal night, taught by the heavenly muse to venture down the dark descent and up to resent, though hard and rare. Thee I revisit safe, and feel thy sovereign vital lamp, but thou revisitst not these eyes that roll in vain to find thy piercing ray and find no dawn. So thick a drop serene hath quenched their orbs, or dim sufficient veiled, yet not the more cease I to wonder where the muses haunt, clear spring or shady grove, or sunny hill, smit with the love of sacred song, but chief thee, Sion, and the flowery brooks beneath, that wash thy hallowed feet and warbling flow, nightly I visit, nor sometimes forget those other two equaled with me in fate. So where I equaled with them in renown, blind Thamyris and blind Meonitis, and Tiresias and Phineus prophets old, then feed on thoughts that voluntary move, harmonious numbers as the wakeful bird sings darkling and in shadiest covert hid tunes her nocturnal note. Thus with the year seasons return, but not to me returns day, or the sweet approach of even, or morn, or sight of vernal bloom, or summer's rose, or flocks, or herds, or human face divine, but cloud instead and ever-during dark surrounds me from the cheerful ways of men, cut off, and for the book of knowledge fair presented with a universal bank of nature's works to me expunged and raised, in wisdom at one entrance quite shut out. So much the rather thou celestial light shine inward, and the mind through all her powers irradiate their plant eyes, all mist from thence purge and disperse, that I may see and tell of things invisible to mortal sight. I love this part in Paradise Lost. There are a lot of really amazing parts in this epic poem. I really encourage you guys to read it if you haven't, or reread it. It is a really hard piece, but I think it's worth it. So at the beginning, we have him doing another invocation, as he often does at the beginning of books. And this is the beginning of book 3. He, the narrator or the speaker, it's hard because you can very clearly tell that Milton is sort of speaking through his own speaker or his own narrator or whatever. But I don't want to say that it is Milton, because it's actually the speaker who's telling us the story of what's going on. So he is visiting heaven after having been in hell, because in the previous books we cover Satan and the other fallen angels, and we get hell described to us and what they're planning to do and all of that. So now in book 3, we're visiting heaven. So our speaker is telling us that it's like amazing to be visiting heaven after having been in hell. But he says, I revisit safe and feel thy sovereign vital lamp, but thou revisits not these eyes that roll in vain to find thy piercing ray and find no dawn. So even though he's there, he cannot see. He cannot see this beautiful heaven because the light, the holy light, will not pierce through his blindness. And if you guys were not convinced enough, we also talk about very famous, renowned blind poets and prophets. He mentions Thamyris, Maonitis, Tiresias, and Phineas. So he's sort of comparing himself to these famous prophets and poets. Yeah, Milton was not exactly super humble. He did sort of stand on the line of arrogance sometimes. And then he's telling us all of the things that he cannot see. Like he cannot see the morning or the evening or flowers, flocks, or he can't see anything. And he's sort of saying that this is a tragedy. But in return, he's asking for wisdom, and the wisdom to see it, like for the celestial light to shine inwards so that he'll be able to see, but a different kind of seeing. He says, plant eyes within his mind so that he can see things invisible to mortal sight. And that is how he is able to tell us this wonderful story. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been John Milton. And this is a truly amazing book. It comes with notes on the back. A lot of notes, which are really helpful for understanding a lot of the things that are going on in these pieces. If you guys will see, I have a lot of annotations and a lot of these pages so I can sort of help myself understand what's going on. But yeah, I hope you guys have very, very sweet dreams. Leave a comment if you have any suggestions for what you would like to see next. Comment, like, subscribe, and yeah, I hope you guys have a very good night.